Bird, coming at you live for NSPN Next Gen Sports. Go like and follow NSPN for total coverage of all team and combat sports, live shows, plus exclusive player interviews and unprecedented sports content creation.
14 pregame show live here at Ducky Sports Lounge, 1719 West Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Blake Anthony. We got, go ahead, get on that camera right there. Get into that mic right there. Tell them who you are. Oh. They're out here live. Hot 101.5 live here on NSPN. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, hi. So I'm Holly with Miguel and Holly from Hot 101.5.
How you doing?
Doing so well. And I saw you guys in here with a very intensely professional setup.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
that.
Yes.
So are you here for the whole game?
We're here for the whole game. I'm going to be your PA announcer. I'm going to give you your pre, half, and post-game edition. That's my colleague right there, Mr. Blake Anthony.
Hello.
Sports Talk 49. We're with NSPN. I love St. Pete.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
So do you come here for every game, or do you go to different locations?
No, we come here for every game. Home and away.
Okay, I'm here for it. Well, I hope you guys don't mind. We're here for a couple of hours.
Okay.
As well, just chilling in the same area.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Well, it's good to meet you. You do a great job. I'm Best of the Bay, I believe, with your colleague Miguel.
Absolutely.
What's that podcast, that show called?
Okay, so our podcast is the Miguel and Holly Uncensored podcast, which was indeed Best of the Bay podcast, best podcast, which we're very thankful for. So I appreciate that. We won Best Local Morning Show again this year, which was amazing. So
awesome.
It's been really, really cool. And if there's any M&H fan members listening to this as well, I'm sure there probably are. Hello.
Yeah, we'll fire the cannons for that right there. There we go. And we're on with Holly here of Hot 101.5, joining us at Ducky's here live on NSPN. And, of course, I love St. Pete. So what are you guys doing here? Again, you guys are passing out entry forms here. Go ahead and tell the people why they should come out here to Ducky's.
Okay, so here's what we're doing. I endorse Corona. Miguel and I both do. And so I'm thirsty. You should get a Corona. Okay. Find your game day beach, right? Because we're beachy. So anyway, we're here with Corona as a partnership. Every home game, I think it's every home game throughout the season, we go around to different bars, different locations in Tampa Bay, and we kind of post up for a couple of hours, and we register you to win all kinds of Corona swag. So right now we have a Yeti Corona cooler. Mm-hmm. We've got a little beach cooler and a couple of other things that if you register, you can win about a little bit before 6 o'clock today. And then overall, every time we go out, you can register through a QR code to win this massive, a 75-inch TV and a whole, I think catered. It might be a catered Super Bowl party. Okay,
wow.
It is. Thank you. So
nice.
So you can just, if you get a chance, if you can leave your area.
What's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the evolution of Sports Talk Television here on a Wednesday night, Victory Wednesday, because we didn't get a chance to do Victory Monday. It's Victory Wednesday here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And how do we start off this show here on this Wednesday night? Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, we'll have ABC Action News' own Denis Phillips talking about that Bucs big victory over the Buffalo Bills in overtime, 33-27, with the walk-off by Brashard Perryman. At 9:30, we'll have Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Network talking about the upcoming matchup, the enemy going behind enemy lines with the New Orleans Saints. And then at 10 o'clock, we'll have the legend himself, former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions, It's Sports Mag, Mr. Leo Haggerty. And, of course, your phone calls. Get on the phone lines. Let's talk about your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. So how you feeling, Bucs fans? Are you feeling good about that victory? I get it. Once again, a nail biter to a certain degree. Shouldn't have been a nail biter. But it's so easy to say that. It's so easy to get spoiled and say, you know what? It should have been a blowout. The Bucs were up 24-3. They should win it easily. The Bucs are up 27-10. They should win it easily. But it's not how it always works out in the National Football League. It's not for long, my friends. It's not. You know, Buffalo Bills are going to go in there. They're going to need a win. They're going to be as desperate as possible. They are. And they got a pretty damn good young quarterback that Dennis Phillips told you about, how good he was going to be. And he was good. And they come back, and you know what? The Bucs find a way to win. And that's the key. We could sit back here and nitpick and say they blew a big-time lead. We could sit back here and say the defense needs work. But then at the end of the day, if your offense helps you out in that second half, you don't have to put your defense on the field. And give credit to where credit is due. You know, the Buffalo Bills, once again, are not going to roll over. And when you have Josh Allen, you have Stephon Diggs, and you have players like Gabriel Davis and Cole Beasley, those guys are not going to lay down. It's a pretty good defense, too. But the Bucs find a way. So what do you guys think? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. In Bucs news today, as we await for Dennis Phillips to get on with us from ABC Action News. Of course, if you haven't visited him locally, get out to Indian Trails in Palm Harbor and go and see those Christmas lights and go and get that hot cocoa because it's for great cause. It is. Donate money. He'll tell you more about it when he comes on. But with the Bucs injury situation, Jamel Dean, illness on Sunday, he went out of the game still dealing with concussion symptoms, A little bit woozy. He didn't practice today. Leonard Fournette, ankle. He didn't practice today, so we'll see. It's still early yet. Sunday Night Football is not here yet. You got Richard Sherman with an Achilles. He didn't practice. Whitehead with the calf. He was limited. That'd be Jordan Whitehead. And Antoine Winfield Jr. with a foot problem. He did not practice. So we will keep you abreast of that situation. With all those injuries, anything can change at that point. Don't freak out. Of course, it's going to be a red out on Sunday night versus the New Orleans hated Saints. I'm not going to mince words. The Saints have dominated this team in the regular season. They have dominated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I hate to say it, but they have. Of course, Saints fans will forget about the playoff victory last year by the Bucs, along with a lot of you trolls out there. You know who you are. Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan legend. Number one troll. So I'll tell you what, let's go out to the comments as we await for Dennis Phillips. But it's quiet tonight. What's going on? You're not happy about your Bucs being 10-3? You don't want to blow up the phone lines? Oh, that's right. You don't want to bitch. Because some of you guys, when the Bucs lose, you want to bitch, but they haven't lost that much this year, right? They lost 3 times this year. Filled up phone lines when they lose. When they win, crickets. Love it. You're going to love it. And here's a new sound effect. Here you go.
How about them Bucs, baby?
Yeah. How about that? How about those Bucs?
How about them Bucs, baby?
Byron Leftwood's right there. Let's go out to this comment from Nspn Tampa Bay TV. A lot of time and energy goes into what we are watching here. So if you do enjoy it, please help our content creators by sending stars to support them. 100% everything donated goes directly to our show host. So show us some love. You have been put your money where your mouth is, basically. All right, let's go out to Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan Legend SC. Goodell has the Bucs with the easiest schedule in the league. You know, I'm not really surprised by this comment because, look, coming down the stretch at this point, the Bucs do have the easiest schedule in the league. And, of course, it was a good time on Monday night, right? Because if you watch the shows during the week, I told you that Arizona was going to lose to the Rams, and there you go. Kyler Murray doing what Kyler Murray does best. Throw interceptions in the red zone. You know, I saw this statistic from Tom Brady, 60 touchdowns ever since he's been with the Bucs in the red zone. 60 touchdowns, no interceptions in the red zone. One of the most important areas. Kyler Murray turns over the ball. Rams take care of business. And now your Tampa Bay Buccaneers are looking at the 2 seed. So going back to it, yes, they do have the easiest schedule coming in. But the Saints are not going to lay down. They're 6-7. No more Drew Brees. No more Jameis Winston. You still have Taysom Hill. And there still are concerns with this Bucs defense. Make no mistake about it. You give up 174 yards of rushing to the Buffalo Bills. Not going to get it done. Not against the Saints. You have Alvin Kamara. You have Taysom Hill. You still have weapons on that team. You do. So you got to take care of business no matter what the schedule looks like. Because like I said, always, anything can happen in this league. Who would have thought the Houston Texans would beat the Tennessee Titans? It happened. Who would have thought the god-awful Jacksonville Jaguars, 2-11, which, by the way, Urban Meyer, you're on the clock. Honestly, I don't know why he's not fired by now. We'll get into that in a little bit. They beat the Buffalo Bills. The Colts had no business beating the Buffalo Bills. They do. Honestly, if you want to say who had one of the easiest schedules in the National Football League, it's the Buffalo Bills. And yet, Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan Legend, you will sit up here and say how great the Buffalo Bills are. Yet the Bucs disposed of them. Yet the Bucs beat the New England Patriots. Yet the Bucs beat the Colts. You won't give them credit. So this is what you get for that.
Shut up!
Don't piss me off tonight, Troy. I'm in one of those moods, my friend, and it has nothing to do with sales. Your act is tired. It's completely tired, my friend. Tired. Go Bucks. Absolutely. Let's go out to Rob Thompson. Peter H. Blake, what's up, my brother? That game was what I thought it would be, a slobber knocker. The first half, it wasn't. Troy Polamalu again. It's not even cold to be drinking hot cocoa. Well, too bad. It's for a good cause. You know, I don't think you're a very good person at parties, are you? You're not very entertaining, are you, Troy Polamalu? No, I don't think you are. Do you think the Bucs get greedy in short yardage situations? It just seems like we look for chunk plays instead of just picking up the first down. It's a great point. Honestly, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you go for the third down and you get stuffed, you're considered conservative. If you go for a long pass with 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, and don't get it, you're considered an idiot. Sometimes the play calling is interesting. I'll say that. I will say that. But this team has confidence in their offense, especially when you put the ball in Tom Brady's hands. And who could blame him? Honestly, have you seen Tom Brady leading the league right now in the NFL with touchdowns thrown? All-time completion percentage. 700 touchdowns. That one to Brashard Perryman for the walk-off. Not too bad. Yes, sir. Love it. Absolutely.
How about them Bucks, baby?
Yeah. Christopher Cole says, hey, Peter, it's Victory Wednesday. It is Victory Wednesday. Let me go ahead and fire those cannons. Here we go. And I tell you what, let's go out to our guest, Mr. Denis Phillips of ABC Action News. Let's go ahead and get his intro. Here we go. All right, there we go. ABC Action News. I want to get off sports for a moment tell me that situation in Kentucky, what Sports Talk Television, how abnormal was that the other night? What happened in Kentucky? I heard there was a tornado that actually stayed on the ground for 260 miles. Welcome to the Evolution.
Hey, Peter. Yeah, having severe weather in December is not that unusual. Having severe weather to the degree that they had it is obviously very unusual, unprecedented. And, the fact that we've had very, very warm air for the last couple of weeks, not just here, but the entire eastern half of the U.S., and you get a cold front come in, and it can create some severe weather. And, we've had pretty much as warm air as you'll ever see this time of the year. There's a lot of talk, and no time to get into this, but including in my alma mater, which 1 out of every 4 meteorologists in the world comes from Penn State. It's the largest meteorological institution in the world. And Dr. Mann runs that department, or at least a good portion of it up there. And he came out and pretty much said, look, this is the new normal. This is the kind of thing with climate change that you can expect to see more of, not every year, but comparatively speaking, more than we've definitely seen in the past. So it was. Whether or not that actual tornado stayed on the ground the entire time, tornadoes cycle, they go from birth to life to death. And, what happens is you still got a big supercell, big thunderstorm, rotating thunderstorm that's moving for a couple hundred miles. And what happens within that big storm, you get little tornadoes that form, or in this case, unfortunately, big ones. And what can happen is it can die, and then another one replaces it really quick. And it's kind of hard to determine whether or not it was a single lifespan of a tornado that stayed on the ground that long. But regardless, you've seen the damage. It's just been unbelievable. And I'll tell you, tonight, there's some really rough weather in Nebraska. They're having tornadoes. They're having 80 to 100 mile an hour winds in Denver. And it's been crazy. It really has been. And yet for us, it's been pretty quiet, and looks like it's going to stay that way for the rest of this week and into early next week too.
Yeah, no snow in our forecast, no cold weather, of course. And you're talking about tornadoes, F4, F5s. They're nothing to play with. And you usually expect that from, Tornado Alley, and that's more of the Midwest. Kentucky, I guess, is in there, but not really. So, and like you said, it's kind of shocking in December for that to happen. So prayers out to all the victims, families, and everything that happened there. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 24-3 the first half. I know you and Harry were talking about this. Harry wasn't feeling very well tonight. He was feeling under the weather. And I gave him a break. We were talking. He was saying, give me credit the first half. It's a blowout. And then all of a sudden, here comes your guy that you talked about, Josh Allen, not only with the passing yards, but with the rushing yards. Give me your thoughts on that Bucs big victory over the Buffalo Bills. Kind of a nail-biter.
Josh Allen, number 1 quarterback in fantasy last week, 45.3 points. He was everything that he is, and hurting his foot at the end. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts him over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, the Bills came back. They had a chance to win the game at the end, keeping the ball out of Brady's hand at the very end. Could not get the touchdown, had to settle for the field goal. And the folks who had the Bills plus the 3.5 were not happy because of the long touchdown. And, all they had to do was tackle the guy, and they would have kicked the field goal. But at that point, that's the NFL. So it was an exciting game, and it was an entertaining game in the second half. But like you said, the first half, it looked like it was going to be an absolute blowout. But you just kind of had a feeling that Buffalo was going to find a way to get back into that game.
Yeah, you go back out to Brady. 31 for 46, 363, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had an opportunity to throw some interceptions. Buffalo didn't capitalize on it. But not a great second half. In fact, he missed some wide open throws. Still leads the NFL with 36 touchdowns. Once again, is he your MVP at this point, especially with the way Kyler Murray played on Monday night?
Yeah, Kyler, I wonder if Kyler, it looked like he might have got hurt a little bit toward the end of that game. Murray's been up and down because he's been hurt this year. And when he's hurt, he will not run. And when Kyler Murray doesn't run, he's just not the same guy. He is one of those quarterbacks that you need. They call him a cheat code. Him and several other running quarterbacks. Lamar used to be that way. Now, Lamar with the bad ankle. But I think right now, who is more important, who is more valuable to their team, anybody in the NFL than Tom Brady? I don't think there is anybody, and if it's a winning team, then usually that's the guy who gets it. That's tough, though, because when you've got a big lead on a team, I think everybody knows it's hard to keep your foot down. It's hard to keep the pressure on when you have a big lead, especially a team like Buffalo that's got some weapons, although honestly their passing attack really wasn't all that impressive. Like you said, it was Josh Allen keeping the Bucs D honest when he was doing a lot of scrambling, and even more than scrambling, it was a lot of planned runs, and they kind of got the momentum going. And I think we all know that's just football. That's any sports. You get some momentum going your way, it makes it difficult for the other team to catch up. But at the end of the day, the Bucs found a way. And I don't know. You're talking about this week. Taysom Hill, interesting quarterback. He kind of makes it a little more difficult for Alvin Kamara because he vultures a lot of Kamara's attempts down by the goal line. But at the end of the day, they're still an 11-point favorite, and it'll be interesting to see if the Saints can keep it close, just because of Taysom Hill and what he can do. Because heaven knows they don't have any receivers.
Yeah, they don't have any receivers. I mean, do you have some concern with the way Josh Allen ran in that second half and during the game with the Hill, because he can do the same thing and has always given the Bucs problems? And now you get back Alvin Kamara. Is this a trap game to you? Because look, if the Bucs take care of business, they know most likely about it. They win the NFC South. They take care of their business. And of course, with their schedule right now, they can run the table. So is there concern with this defense going forward? Like a lot of Bucs fans tell me, it's an easy schedule. You have Troy Polamalu, King Troy, who's trolling away saying the Bucs have played nobody. But at the end of the day, you look at the schedule, Dennis, they beat the Patriots, they beat the Colts, they beat the Bills. So do you have major concern about this defense defending a Taysom Hill and an Alvin Kamara on Sunday night?
I think it's kind of different because last week, first of all, the Saints, again, have no passing attack at this point. I mean, they just don't have any healthy receivers. And, Marquise Callaway, Traquan Smith, they just don't have a lot, right? So The Bucs know with Buffalo, they did. I mean, whether it's Diggs or whether it's Beasley or whether it's Davis, no matter, or Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, you got those guys who can stretch the field. And in doing so, especially down by as much as they were, then all of a sudden that opens up the running attack for the Bills with a mobile quarterback like Josh Allen. Now, the difference is with the Saints is they don't have that passing attack. They don't have, a quarterback who can throw the ball like Josh Allen. Taysom Hill is not that guy. And they don't have the receivers. So I think they could focus more on Hill, less worried about the passing attack. And I don't think the threat isn't even close to what it is with what it was with Buffalo. I think I'll be interested to see if Hill can move the ball, but I don't think the Bucs are going to have to. I don't think there's going to be nearly the concern that, first of all, and also with a big lead. When the big lead, the defense plays a little softer, and that gives a chance for Josh Allen to run the ball. So I don't have a real good feel for this game either way. Mobile quarterbacks can be really tricky, but they're not going to get beat by the passing attack, I wouldn't think. And because of that, it just seems like more of a one-dimensional offense, so they can focus on Kamara and focus on Hill running the ball.
All right, let me go ahead and throw this question out at you and get your answer on it. Do you think the Bucs get greedy in short yardage situations? It just seems like we look for chunk plays instead of just picking up the first down. As I was explaining to Amaron, I believe that's his name. Look, if you go for 3rd and 1 and you run the ball, you're considered conservative. If you throw the ball and you don't get it, you're considered an idiot. So damned if you do, damned if you don't. What do you think about that question? And do you agree with Amaron?
I mean, I think it's based on the situation. It's hard to argue with the Bucs offense, especially with the way that Fournette's been running the ball. And I said earlier in the year, I would never, ever have a Bucs running back on my roster. Clearly, that's not the case anymore with Fournette. He's turned the corner, and he has become playoff Lenny before the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I just don't have. I mean, we all have a tendency to nitpick a little bit, saying, well, maybe they could do this a little better. Maybe they could do this a little bit better. Is there anybody who's really concerned about the Bucs offense as long as Tom Brady is upright? I mean, it'd be nice to have AB back if he comes back. But at the end of the day, with Evans and with Godwin and with Gronk and with Fournette, I just don't think there's a problem. I think we all talk about it because that's what a sports show does. But I think the Bucs offense is not going to be their Achilles heel. I think if there's going to be an issue, it might very well be the defense. And we'll see, because last year a lot of folks thought that too. And look what the defense did in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they're necessarily getting the production from JPP, but they are getting the production from Shaq Barrett. He had a good game. Devin White had a good game. So it was impressive to see that line once again get after a pretty good quarterback, and that's what they're going to have to do week after week consistently if they want to be a good defense. We're on with Denis Phillips of ABC Action News, sports broadcaster here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television, live on NSPN. And of course, I love St. Pete. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. BA was on the Dan Patrick Show on Tuesday. He was asked about it, and he reiterated about the AB situation. It could go either way right now. It really could. He said also there are a few factors in play. Just continuing with those two guys are where they're at and where the team is at. This most likely sounds like not necessarily a BA decision or a Jason Light decision. It sounds like a Glazer situation. What do you think happens on that Monday morning, if you will, when AB comes off suspension? Do you still feel like he'll be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, or do you think the Bucs could go a different way and cut him and also cut Mike Edwards, which would be unbelievable if they do both of those things, because I believe those players could actually be picked up by a Green Bay, by a Kansas City, by an Arizona Cardinals. I mean, would the Bucs really risk in doing that?
It's all a PR thing, and that's all it is. I mean, at this point in time, I mean, I think the NFL is still obviously taking COVID very seriously based on the fact that how many players are still going through protocol right now. Today, the Washington football team, how many was it? 8, 16? I can't remember. But, clearly they're taking it seriously.
18 players on the COVID list at this point. And the NFL, according to Pro Football Talk, has basically said, look, the show must go on. We're going to continue to play. Is that a mistake by the National Football League to continue to play with outbreaks on certain teams? The Rams had it the other night. They played through their game. They still won, but they were shorthanded. The Browns are facing it. You talked about the Washington football team. Is the NFL right by having this? We're not going to stop games for this.
I think, personally, this is just my opinion. I think the public is over COVID. I think the majority of the people out there are just sick of hearing about it. They're tired of the new variant. They're tired of this. They're tired of that. And I think the NFL is worried about, the public relations perspective of it. Do they look like they're taking it seriously? And so if there was an issue with the vaccination card, with AB, do I think that the public cares? I think the public could care less. I think 95% of the people out there could care less that Antonio Brown had a vaccination card at one point or another. Yeah, to me, this is not the same thing as something to do with, whether accusations with Deshaun Watson are true or not. Something of that nature is a totally different animal these days. I just don't think people could care less. It's in my opinion, could care less about whether the guy had a vaccination card that was fake. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers, for heaven's sakes. I mean, let's call it like it is here. Aaron Rodgers all but lied about whether he had a vaccination, and he has not been suspended. They didn't do anything to him because he is the golden boy, and everybody, and the NFL loves Aaron Rodgers. So they gave him a free pass because in my mind, what Rodgers did was every bit as bad as what Antonio Brown did. You could argue worse. You could argue worse.
Yes.
So to me, I think it's all PR. I think it's all spin. And if they're going to play politics and they're going to do what they think they have to do based on that, then that's their game and they can do what they want to. But in my opinion, I don't think the public could care less about whether or not AB had a vaccination card, a fake vaccination card, especially now because he was vaccinated, if they want to go down that road. That's my opinion. And I feel pretty strongly about it.
No, and I agree with you on that. And I keep on going back to this, even though he did present a fake vaccination card, according to various stories, he was vaccinated. Aaron Rodgers was not and still violated the protocols. And the NFL, I think, was very careful in what they said of, look, they didn't say he had a fake vaccination card. They said he violated protocols, of course, because if they went out and said that, more than likely the FBI would be pursuing Brown, which they aren't right now. We don't know that whole case. But if it's violating protocols, Rodgers did the same thing. That's been my point of emphasis. And I get it. Brown has had those red flags off the field, and that's the reason why he's a target. You just kind of wonder with that Monday decision and this outbreak going on right now, would the Bucs be swayed by PR and maybe by the NFL saying, look, you do need to get rid of them because of what is happening right now with COVID. I hope that that's not the way it is going to be, but I don't know. Like you said, I don't know what PR is. So,
yeah,
all right,
it is. It's possible.
Speaking of a PR nightmare, what are your thoughts and what's going on with the Jacksonville Jaguars? And we know the Urban Meyer story with him dancing with the woman that's not his wife. We know that he's called assistants this week losers. We heard from Michael Silver in the offseason this wasn't going to work out. But here's an even more interesting story, and this is according to Rick Stroud about the and I don't know if you've heard this or not, the former kicker there, Josh Lambo, and let me get my notes here. But first, let's go on to he had a yelling match with Marvin Jones. First and foremost, how do you think Meyer and the job that he's done for the Jaguars, has it been good at all? I get it, he's a rookie coach, but this has been a complete disaster, right?
If they had been winning games, none of this would be an issue. If they had a winning record, nobody would be complaining. It's just what happens. The team's losing, and because of that, the wheels are falling off, and people are finger pointing. There's a lot of coaches that yell at players. But if that team's winning, nobody cares. There might be a little bit of hard feeling, but it doesn't make news because the team is winning. But when the team is losing, as bad as Jacksonville has been and looking as bad as they've done so, and their quarterback, their young star quarterback, calls out the coach in a sense by saying James Robinson should have been on the field more than he was. I mean, he's lost control of the situation. And that's kind of that's the thing that I think a lot of management and owners look for is have they lost control? And it certainly looks to me, and what do I know? I mean, I hear the same thing everybody else does, but it looks to me like he has lost control of that situation. And it's going to be, if there was any hope he could get it back by turning it around, maybe. But in my opinion, I think at the end of the season, they go in another direction.
And Shad Khan has alluded to this. He says, look, I don't want to necessarily, and I'm just paraphrasing at this point, we gave these coaches this amount of time. We gave these coaches this amount of time. We don't want to make a decision right away. But listen to this, Dennis. Listen to this PR nightmare. I'm in the Lund's position, and this is the former kicker for them, Lambeau. And this is according to Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Left leg forward, right leg back. Urban Meyer, while I'm in the stretch position, comes up to me and says, hey, dipshit, make your effing kicks, and kicks me in the leg. It certainly wasn't as hard as he could have done it, but certainly it wasn't a love tap. Truthfully, I register it as a 5 out of 10, which in the workplace, I don't care if it's football or not. The boss can't strike an employee. And for a second, I couldn't believe it actually happened. Pardon my vulgarity. I said, don't you ever kick me again. And his response was, I'm the head ball coach. I'll kick you wherever the F I want. I mean, he's calling his assistants losers. He's hanging out with women at a bar. He's 2-11 right now. I mean, honestly, if you want to fire somebody, fire him right now. What more of a reason do you have at this point? I mean, it's a complete and total disaster in Jacksonville. And this is the reason why owners and general managers don't hire college coaches, because they don't transition well to the NFL game. And Meyer is just another example of it.
Yeah, I do think you have to remember, though, the owner hired him, and there was a lot of fanfare. So by firing in the middle of the season, you're also admitting that your decision was a total failure. Now, they realize it is by looking at the record and everything around it. But to me, I just think the owner just says, you know what, we gave him a whole season. That isn't what we thought. We move on. You fire him in the middle of the season, it makes it look even worse. So I personally think, in my opinion, I mean, yeah, you're right. They have a million reasons of why they wanted to. But at the end of the day, if they were 11-2, none of this would be talking. None of this would be news, because no matter what he did off the field or no matter what he said to his coaches, they're still winning ball games. And that's just a fact. That's just the way it is.
Honestly, if he doesn't get fired after this year, do you think he will last, his contract at this point? Because, once again, he hasn't had that success. Can they turn it around? Does he have the mental stability to be an NFL coach, in your opinion?
I don't know. I think there's no way he doesn't get fired. So I think it's kind of a moot point. I I don't even know how to answer that because I don't know what it takes to be a successful NFL coach. I mean, I don't know what the mindset is. I mean, we know the great coaches and we see what they're like, but do we really know what they're like? I don't even know how to answer that, but I can tell you I would be absolutely shocked if he is not fired the day the season ends. Like the clock ticks at 4:05 and at 4:06 he's gone. I think that will be the way it plays out.
All right, let's read these comments. We got Blake Ruffino in the back room here talking about the Saints. Just hold on, Blake. I see you right there. Let's go out to Corey. Bucks over the Saints 31-19. Let's go out to Troy Polamalu. Expect another hot 90-degree Christmas day. Troy again. Brady wants AB in Tampa, if anything. But Bunting and Leftwich. Again, Judy Nicole Hand says, good question, Pete. Lot to contemplate there. Aramon Davis, is OJ Howard hurt? Is there something going on behind the scene with him, or is he in the doghouse with the coaches? Is that the biggest disappointment for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers besides Ronald Jones this year? If you want to nitpick on something,
I mean, OJ Howard's been a disappointment for years, and it's kind of secondary though because they got Gronk. Right. I mean, as long as they have Gronk and Gronk staying. He was out for a few weeks, and obviously they would have been nice if Howard had stepped up at that point. But yeah, I mean, OJ Howard has been a disappointment, I think, from the most of the team's perspective since day one. Coming out of Alabama, the guy had all the size, he had the skill. He was supposed to be the next superstar tight end, and it just hasn't happened. Sometimes it doesn't. But at the end of the day, they've still got Gronk. So until he either isn't with the team anymore or he can't play anymore, I don't think there's really much to complain about. Again, I think it's so common for fans of teams that are looking for things to nitpick about or to things to go, not every player is going to be successful and not every player is going to have a great year. But when the team is winning and still looks to be the favorite to win or at least make it to the Super Bowl, I don't see what the downside is. I really don't. And after watching Arizona and Kyler having his injury issues, I think the Rams, obviously the Bucs, can play with the Rams. So I think everything's going just fine. They keep getting wins,
I do too. I absolutely agree with that. Corey Brown says Antonio Brown getting cut. Too much trouble. Mike Edwards only the first time getting in trouble. Rob says Dennis, keep on preaching. Rob, again, both of our players are 100% vaccinated. Agree. And Troy Polamalu, King Troy, Trojan Legend SC. America believes in Urban Meyer, future Super Bowl champs. And this is what you get.
Shut up!
Really quick, I got to get you out of here. Great stuff as always, Dennis. Really quick, let me ask you a couple more questions, and then we will get you out of here. First and foremost, the Bucs schedule right now is the easiest. Do you think that they will end up with that number one seed? Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers, they keep on rolling. Rodgers has that toe injury. And, of course, now Arizona loses to the Rams, so it's out of their hands. So do you think the Bucs, with that schedule, end up being the number one seed eventually?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I think that they are going to – I think they've – after the bye week, they've kind of turned it on. I think, again, as long as Tom Brady is back there, I just – everybody plays better around him. And the defense has to keep it on the tracks. They don't have to, last year the defense, I've said this a million times, last year the defense won the Super Bowl, not Tom Brady. I'll stick with that because the defense shut down Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, at least enough to get the victory. And that's saying something. I don't know if this year the defense has to be as good as it was last year. I think it would be really nice not have to go to Lambeau instead of having an NFC championship game here as opposed to going up. Not that they can't win because they've done it before and they can do it again. But I would much rather, as I'm sure the Bucs would much rather, play it at home as well. And yeah, I mean, they're both 10-3. So, we'll see how it plays out. I mean, who is the tiebreaker?
Well, right now, at conference wins, it's the Packers have the tiebreaker. And of course, they beat Arizona and they actually have less conference losses. Bucs have 3 NFC conference losses. The Packers only have 2. And, of course, they have the tiebreaker over Arizona, so that's why they're the number one seed. But, of course, that can somewhat change if the Packers lose to the Ravens. Packers also have the Vikings on their schedule. I mean, they still have some tough teams. And, Arizona still has Dallas. Let's talk about Dallas. Are you believing in that team defensively? Offensively, it's hard right now with Dak Prescott. He's very inconsistent and has not played up to his level. What do you make of this Cowboy team?
I hate that team. I hate that team because I cannot get my finger on the pulse of that team. They have cost me money over and over again all year because after they come up big, I think they're going to continue, and then they don't. My phone's about to die in a couple minutes anyway. I'm down to 5%. I just saw it on. I think you can still see me. But no, I just don't. I don't see Dallas having the consistency, and not to mention with Mike McCarthy as their head coach. I mean, he got run out of Green Bay, so who's to say he might not be able to bring them to the next level. I just think at the end of the day, the Bucs are going to find a way. Although I didn't realize that the Packers have the one game up on the tiebreaker. The Ravens, without Lamar, or even with Lamar, as hurt as he is, the Vikings. I mean, if they end up tied, that's a little nerve-wracking, but it's certainly not concerning that the Bucs can't go up to Lambeau and win because they've shown they can do it before.
Absolutely. What are you doing for charity? I came out there on Saturday, had some hot cocoa. Tell everybody about it. Tell all the webheads about it here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television.
It was awesome. We thanks for stopping by with your mom as well. We've been saving for the last Saturday and this Saturday we have we call it Chocolate for Charity. It's hot chocolate where we raise money for the Children's Miracle Network and our neighborhood in Palm Harbor. It's crazy jam-packed cars. Even more so on Christmas Eve when we don't even do hot chocolate. But you see some of the best Christmas lights in the neighborhood, in the development in Pinellas County. Really, really nice Christmas lights. At the same time, we're donating money for the Children's Miracle Network to help children's cancer victims and their families. So again, that's this Saturday night from 6 to 10, Indian Trails in Palm Harbor. If you get a chance to stop by, love to see you. And as always, I'll be here doing the weather. Not much change in the weather either, right on through Christmas.
All right, there you go. Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News. Thanks a lot for your time here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, boss?
See you, Peter. Have a good one.
All right, there you go. Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News, a sports broadcaster on this show. You got to love it. He loves to talk sports, and he's passionate. He knows the three phrases that we say, right? Bring the passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I like it. I'll tell you what, this guy never brings any nonsense. One of my old friends from Are You Serious Sports Network, Mr. Blake Ruffino. Welcome to the Evolution. And of course, we got to talk about those Saints, but really quick, I got to tell you something. I checked in on you the last couple weeks here, the last couple months. It has been absolutely bananas for your show, for your network. Congratulations on all your success. And
Thank you.
Right now, the story has been LSU and the hiring of Brian Kelly. Your thoughts?
Really like it. I think that he's a really good coach. The winningest coach in college football from a winning perspective, winning games. I mean, not national titles. Obviously, that's Nick Saban. But Peter, I really like it. Been a lot of news. Show's been growing pretty rampantly. Just a lot of news that's going on. Elias Ricks, who is one of LSU's big corners, just committed to Alabama from the transfer portal. So, a lot of LSU fans are happy, but also upset. It's like you get one good thing and then another bad thing happens. So, but it's been good. It's always chaos down here in the Bayou. The Saints are losing and without Drew Brees. So, look, it's one thing on top of the other. And so with that being said, I mean, it's just been nuts.
Yeah, it has been nuts. And of course, it was a nuts day for National Signing Day. What do you make of the big time story? Travis Hunter goes from his supposed dream school in Florida State, which I'm not afraid to admit, I'm a Florida State fan. He's a number one recruit, corner, wide receiver, and switches it to Jackson State. And now there's scuttlebutt, if you will, that the NIL agreement could be from Barstool Sports where they paid him. I mean, what do you make of this crazy situation? Deion Sanders, 4-8 at Jackson State when he came in, 11-1 his first year. He's really doing some big things there, right?
Yeah, he's doing some big things, Peter. I think for college football, it's the I don't want to say it's the biggest day in college football's history or college athletics history, but I think that it's up there. Okay, right? Like, when you sit back and you look at all at college sports, when is the number one recruit in the nation ever committed to an FCS school? Now, maybe you had really good players and really good kids and really talented individuals go to like the Naval Academy or Army. We remember Dennis Robinson, Roger Staubach being at Navy and stuff like that. But other than that, Peter, you haven't seen him go to an FCS school or an HBCU. So I think it's a big deal. And look, let's not act like Florida State couldn't have matched it.
Sure.
I mean, Florida State could have matched it just as long along with Jackson State. So, look, I know that, and Peter, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter or not, but the whole Fire Mike Norvell Twitter Spaces today was pretty rampant. I was in there; it was pretty funny. It was actually pretty comical. I liked it, but it was also serious. But to anybody who's a fan of Florida State, the only thing I would tell you, and LSU had to do this, and they did this in 2020 or 2000 when they hired Nick Saban. Y'all have a athletic department issue. You have to build the resources for kids to come. If you don't do that, you're going to lose. And Peter, that's just the bottom line. And everybody, you see free agents even in the NFL. Why do you think everybody wants to go be a free agent for the Rams? Oh, Los Angeles. Heck no. They don't want to pay that taxes, but they built the facilities, they built things around it, and people want to be around that nice stuff. That is historically what's happened in college, and it was what happens everywhere. So, Peter, it's a historic day. I think that you're not going to stop seeing stuff like this. But look, if you want to get these kids, you have to come to the table. And if you don't, you're going to lose.
Yeah. And do you think it was a mistake by FSU to not hire Deion? And do you think eventually Deion will end up at one of these Power 5 schools like Florida State? Nick Saban, maybe, he maybe retires one of these days, stops winning national championships, although I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But maybe Deion goes to one of these schools eventually. Or do you think Deion is in it for the long haul to really make a statement that a small program like a Jackson State can be built off of recruiting?
I don't know that, Peter. Honestly, I don't know what he's ultimately going to do there. What I will tell you, though, is I do believe I don't want to say that they should have hired Deion. I mean, he was a high school coach, like that's a hard – and look, in college, you don't have just like in the NFL, you have to impress the owner. You don't have to worry about board of supervisors. You don't have to worry about donors. You don't have to worry about fans. You don't have to worry about recruits or players because they're still locked into a contract. You don't have to worry about that as an owner, and that's why and I heard y'all's the rant about Urban Meyer earlier, but that's why like stuff like that with Urban Meyer could happen, right? And but it didn't happen with Deion at Jackson State. I don't want to say they should have hired Deion because of one recruit, right? Like, are we gonna say you should have hired Deion because of Travis Hunter? Because the program in the athletic department is so much bigger than one person and one individual. Again, Florida State has a athletic department problem, and look, fans who are in the chat or whatever that like and love Florida State, you just got to be realistic with yourself. You got to be able to go out there and build a $10 million facility like LSU did a couple of years ago. Right. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to beat the Alabamas. You're not going to beat the Clemsons. You're not going to beat the LSUs. You're not going to beat the Ohio States. You're not going to beat the Oklahomas. You're just not going to. So,
yep.
Look,
I know we're talking college football, and we're on with Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Network here, live on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Looking at this current playoff format, did they get it right? And are you excited about these matchups? And how do you see these matchups playing out on New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I think that they got it right. I really want to see Alabama take it to Cincinnati. And look, I'm an LSU fan, so I have no love for them at all. But they're also a group of 5 team, and this is supposed to be the best group of 5 team of all time. So I want Alabama to put the smackdown on them and tell them, like, hey, man, you're not welcome here yet. And I don't want to hear, well, Oklahoma got blown out because technically they didn't. They came back. I don't want to hear about LSU blowing out Oklahoma 63-28. I really just don't want to hear it because the score doesn't have to indicate how physical a game is. If Alabama comes out and starts running the ball and they get up by 30 and they're eating clock and they're eating up time, but physically Cincinnati's getting pushed around all over the place, the score is not going to indicate what actually happened. So I think that they got it right. I think personally, I think Georgia could be on upset alert if they don't switch to JT Daniels, in my personal opinion. I think Michigan's pretty physical on both lines of scrimmage. But, look, there's a good chance you have an Alabama-Georgia rematch in a national title game, and everybody wants to complain about it, but you can't complain about it when they're the best two teams in the country.
No, I agree, and I got a feeling about Michigan this year. And Jim Harbaugh has finally solidified his quarterback situation. You have a defense, you have a running game. I just got a feeling that Michigan is going to face Alabama, and Michigan is going to take it all. Am I crazy for thinking that?
Hey, Peter, come back on the screen very quickly.
Yeah.
You know I love you, right?
Yes.
You're a little crazy.
Everybody tells me I'm crazy when I'm thinking this, but there's just something about this team, Blake, and you can see it, and you can't necessarily put your finger on it, but it's almost like, and I'll go ahead and talk from NFL standards here. The Bucs beating the Saints last year in the playoffs. Everybody knew they were going to beat the Packers. Everybody knew they were going to win the Super Bowl because they got over that hump. In the same way as Michigan finally got over the hump with Ohio State. So why not Michigan?
I think if they hadn't lost to Michigan State, I'd feel better about it, but they did.
Okay.
And honestly, Peter, they got physically abused against Michigan State, and so I worry about what happens if you face Alabama and Nick Saban, can they win? Yes. Do I think they're going to win? No. I think that there's a bit there. They are very physical on both lines of scrimmage. That offensive line probably is the best offensive line in the country. I don't care what Georgia said. Look, I played center for a long time collegiately as well. And look, they got some horses up front now. So can they make it closer? Yes. I don't think that they have the skill players on the outside that can make plays. And I don't think they have the defensive back room. Jamison Williams, nobody can stop that kid right now. So I don't know, Peter.
All right. I will chalk that up as maybe I didn't take my medication tonight. Wrong with Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Network here on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's talk about the Saints. They have dominated the Bucs during the regular season. Why?
I don't know. I was at that game in the Superdome a couple of weeks ago, and it was loud. If I remember correctly, that was the game that Mark Ingram came back.
Yep.
And it was really loud. And look, everybody was affected by Hurricane Ida, so it was even louder. Mm-hmm. I think that might have played a role into it. Look, this Saints team, I have the adjective and the word that I want to use, but I don't think that it's politically correct. And tonight I got popped for being non-politically correct from the older generation.
Well, here, listen, you're on Nspn, you're on I Love St. Pete, and you're on the evolution of sports talk television. So, my friend, let it rip.
They're a bipolar team.
Okay.
They're a very bipolar team that they're hot 1 minute and then they're cold the next. Now, Alvin Kamara coming back's big. Now, what happens if they get healthy on the offensive line? Look, this team can run the football now. And what they accomplished last time was, even though the stats weren't out there, they still ran the ball against Tampa, and they took it to them. Now, the Saints offensive line was healthier then, but I don't trust Taysom Hill at all. Mm-hmm. I think that he's too chaotic. I think, and Peter, we had this conversation on your show a year ago.
Yeah.
And we were talking about what was going to happen. And I said, look, there's nothing that Taysom Hill could do in the regular season that's going to prove to me that he should ever be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. So, look, I think Tampa's going to win this game, but you know what's crazy? The last time I came on your show and said Tampa was going to win, they didn't. So I don't know. And look, this is a rivalry game. And look, the Saints are desperate now. The Saints are really desperate. And what happens with a very desperate team, they can do some things. And that defense is still really good. But, man, I can't pick Tom Brady over Taysom, or I can't pick Taysom Hill over Tom Brady. I just can't do it.
No, you can't. And I tell you why, because he is inconsistent. Only throws for 175 yards. He has that rushing threat. Of course, the Bucs have had difficulty in containing mobile quarterbacks. You saw that last week with the Josh Allen. So you would think, you know what, the Saints absolutely have a chance. But then here comes the story today that Sean Payton is sick. I mean, what's the latest with him? Is it COVID? What's going on with Sean Payton? And how much of a loss could that be if he can't coach on Sunday night?
So, look, because it was National Signing Day today in college football and LSU is our number one centric thing, I really don't know all the specifics yet. I mean, that's literally why I'm sitting up, because I have to keep up with Saints news today. Peter, I got to be honest, I haven't heard much because there's just so much going on from an LSU perspective. Look, if he got COVID again, this would be the third time that he's gotten COVID in over a year and a half. Now, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a political guy, and I'm not going to get political here because that's just not my nature. But man, oh man, but there is a surge here. So, you know what's crazy is I wonder what this team would look like without Sean Payton right now. I think that he's kind of coaching for his life a little. I say life, but he's kind of over coaching some things, Peter. Like he's just not letting it loose, like he's so uptight in his play calling sometimes. I'd be lying, Peter, because of today. I just don't know if he'll be on the sidelines. I hope he is. He's a great coach. I just don't know right now.
Any chance he got sick from seeing that new trailer from Netflix with Kevin James playing him? Did you see that trailer?
I did see the trailer, and I don't understand it. Like
James, that's the guy you got to play him. Come on, man.
Peter, you're trying to convince people trying to convince me. Like I'm like, dude, what did I ever say? I never said Kevin James. Sean Payton ain't got a phony bone in his body. So why are you going to get Kevin James? I mean, that man's the most dull human being on the face of the planet. So he gets mad at everybody. He talks shit to everybody. Excuse my language. I'm sorry, but
all right, don't worry.
He talks crap to everybody. So look, there's no love lost for me with Sean Payton. Now, I hope he's okay, but man, look, he's gonna have to pick this up now. He's gonna have to look. They're fighting for their life. So no love lost for me with Sean Payton and this whole film. But I will say this. I think it will kind of show you a little bit of a light behind the NFL coach and what they miss, though, too, Peter. I hope that doesn't go unrecognized. Like the stuff with his son, and the players. Like, I really hope that people do. And this just isn't Sean Payton. Like, how much these dudes sacrifice their life for this game. I hope is what everybody takes away from it. I think it's inspirational. Sean Payton didn't come back a different human being, but then he kind of went back to his old ways a little bit. But he did come back a different human being just because everything that was around him. And when you're gone from what you love for a year, Peter, stop your show from a year from today. You wouldn't want to do that, And so I hope that everybody takes the real message and not all the craziness surrounding the movie,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you're exactly right, because the situation is the movie is about him getting suspended and then coaching his son's football team. We're all Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Network here live on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. There's been rumors that say that possibly Peyton could be interested, or the Bears could be interested in getting him as a coach. You're on the inside to a certain degree with the Saints. Could you see the Saints trading him to the Chicago Bears? Do you feel like he could be on the hot seat with another losing season with the Saints? Or is it just rumor once again?
Rumor.
Okay.
Yeah, rumor. I'm not buying that right now. The one crazy thing about Louisiana is there's more rumors than there is water. So I unless somebody I trust starts telling me that kind of stuff, Peter, no, I'm not buying into it. That's not saying it's not factual.
Right.
But look, just being in the state my entire life, and unless the Benson family comes and tells me right now, I'm not believing anything.
Yeah.
So no, I don't believe it. But look, Like, what was the thing? It's crazy. Like, Sean Payton was rumored to be the next head coach of the Cowboys 4 different times, and they never even did an interview with him.
Right.
And so it's like, how many times are you going to bluff this to get more money? Pick other teams, dog. Like, pick the Rams. Pick when Sean McVay got hired. Pick somebody else, because the old Cowboys thing is getting dull and it's getting aggravating. And stop getting look. I talk to agents all the time because we just hired Brian Kelly, and I'm talking to their agency. I'm talking to people that work for them. And they push out more BS than anything. So start giving me some real stuff, and then maybe I'll start believing it.
All right. Really quick, we'll wrap this up because we've had you on, and I love having you on here. We got to do it again when college football. Blake Ruffino of RU Series Sports Network. How can the Saints win this game? What's the biggest key for them to beat the Bucs on Sunday night?
Run the football, great defense.
Okay.
Don't put it in the hands of Tom Brady, and don't put it in the hands of Taysom Hill. Even let him run the football. But the problem with Taysom Hill running the football is he fumbles the ball a lot. Peter, did you know in the games that he started, he had more fumbles, twice as many fumbles as anybody in the National Football League?
It's amazing to me. It really is. And, to me, the Saints, they continue to give him extensions. And really quick, have you seen enough of Jameis Winston to know he's the starting quarterback, or do you feel like the Saints will explore other possibilities either in free agency or the draft coming up in 2021?
Oh, they're going to explore. But that doesn't.
Excuse me.
Yeah, they're going to explore, but that doesn't mean the people in the state of Louisiana don't like Jameis. I think that they'd be okay with Jameis to some extent, but only if you got into the playoffs and you gave him an extra year. But the problem with that, though, is Peter, is if what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers in Louisiana would kind of be a decent fit. Like, they kind of fit this, like his culture, kind of like leave me alone, like stop talking. Like, I just want to go out and do what I want to do. Like, that's the people of Louisiana. And here's another thing. What if Russell Wilson, is in free agency? So I don't know that. I think that Aaron Rodgers was going to get the biggest look of anybody, but I think that they have to go to here's the draft and at least look. We talked about Cincinnati and Alabama. I think the Cincinnati quarterback is somebody that they're looking into. He has a lot of the traits that Peyton looks for. Outside, he's taller, but other than he's taller with Breeze, he's just really accurate. They're got to make a move. But look, the people of Louisiana really like Jameis, and I really hate that. Not only did he get hurt, but he got hurt against the Bucs, and then he got hurt against Devin White. Like, that was the part for Saints fans. Like, damn, man, because we know Devin White better than anybody. I know Devin White better than most human beings. I at least I think that I do. Just being around him and stuff like that. And he doesn't want that. Now, he's a physical dude, and he's got a nasty mentality when he's on the field, but he didn't want that to happen. No. So, I said all that long stuff to say they're going to probably look elsewhere.
All right, there you go. Blake Ruffino, go ahead and promote yourself here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. Great stuff as always.
Thanks, Peter. We talk a lot of LSU, but we're expanding into the SEC. A lot of college football talk. We do talk NFL. We do talk Saints. We had Jim Hendricks on. I was on with Bobby Hebert, the Cannon today. A lot of Saints stuff. So look, we're trying to get to all of it, but it's like, look, man, there's so much stuff to get into in so little time. Peter, I'm sure that you know this, but sometimes when you get off your show, you're like, damn, I just did so long and I forgot this little topic that we needed to touch on. So AYS Sports across the board, subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's blowing up in leaps and bounds, and we appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, I mean, here's a guy who's one of the hardest workers I know. Besides myself, he's had Warren Sapp on. He's got SEC people on. He is locked in. He is definitely focused in on the Saints and, of course, LSU. Anytime you need news, right there. Blake Ruffino, thanks a lot for your time here.
Very quickly on the Warren Sapp thing, I think me and him are going fishing soon. So we're trying to line that up. He came on the show. We we're talking about it. So he don't like that cold though, man. I'm just he don't like the cold. So, but we're trying to line that up. And look, I love me some Sapp, man. He's a funny dude. He's a smart dude too. Very intelligent.
Yeah, he's a funny dude. He's a smart dude. I've had my own run-in with him, but I won't talk about that. We'll just that's another show. Blake.
He's gonna test you. He's gonna test you.
Oh, he'll definitely test you. That's for sure. Oh, yeah, definitely. Blake Ruffino,
Yep.
Are You Serious Sports Network. Don't be a stranger, my friend. It's been a long
know, man. I know. It's been chaotic, just chaotic during COVID. So, but I appreciate you having me on, man. Bring me on anytime. I'll be here.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Blake Ruffino, thanks a lot for coming on The Evolution, all right?
Thanks, man. See you soon.
All right, see you soon. There you go. Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Network. Love that guy. Love that guy. He's locked into the Saints. He's locked into the LSU Tigers. He knows about the SEC. People always say, well, you talk too much about the Bucs. Okay. Little college football talk tonight. How about that? What do you think about the events today? Travis Hunter, #1 prospect? Well, I tell you what. Let's go out to this guy. We'll ask him. Let's get his intro on. Here we go. Former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions, It's Sports Mag, not only covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but also covers the Tampa Bay Lightning. First and foremost, welcome to the Evolution. And your thoughts on that Lightning game last night as they defeat the LA Kings 3-2 in overtime. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Peter. How about yourself?
Doing great. Great night to talk sports here. Miss these guys. It's a hump day. It's a Victory Wednesday because we have Victory Monday, Victory Tuesday. The Bucs are 10-3. And your thoughts on that game versus the Buffalo Bills? Bucs up 24-3, up 27-10. And then here comes Josh Allen and that Buffalo Bills offense. Are you worried about this defense going forward? Or is it like you always say, Leo, that other team gets paid too and they were desperate for a win?
You know what, Peter? Remember last year when we sat after the NFC and AFC championship games and they said the Bills just put out the blueprint on how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yes, sir.
They just didn't have the athletes to do it. Well, guess what? They put out the blueprint on how to beat the Buccaneers Sunday. And again, here's what you got to remember. To beat the Buccaneers, there's 3 things you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
One, you got to be willing to throw it 50-plus times because you can't run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh eat up 4 guys. If you think you're going to block them one-on-one, you're in trouble to start with. If you got to double team them, that means you have the dyslexics. You know who the dyslexics are, Peter?
What's that?
That's those linebackers that are 54 and 43.
Sure.
45.
Right.
You know, Devontae and Devin, they're like clones. You let them run free, there's a problem. So now what you got to do is you got to throw the ball and you got to make those linebackers cover. And third, you got to be willing to go into the first half down maybe 7 to 10 points because now the Buccaneers are going to make all their defensive changes figuring you're going to throw it the second half. And look what Buffalo did the second half. They started running the football because now the Buccaneers were in blitz mode and there were gaps being formed. So that's how you beat the Buccaneers. Now, the secondary, Peter, those guys, it's being held together by a Band-Aid.
I mean, it really is. I mean, it seems like every day you got a new injury. Now, Jamel Dean, who was, fallen to illness, left the game early. Now it could be concussion symptoms. I keep on saying syndrome, but symptoms. He's woozy. So, of course, you need him out there because, really, he has stepped up and been your #1 corner with the absence of a Carlton Davis and a Sean Murphy Bunting. You've got Antoine Winfield not practicing today. We'll see how that goes. And, of course, Whitehead limited. So this secondary exactly is finally starting to get healthy. And then once again, you have injuries. It's just crazy at this point.
Peter, again, I tell people this. The football god of injury does not smile on you 2 years in a row. Look at the Buccaneers when they won their first Super Bowl. They had a whole gang coming back again. And guess what? All of a sudden, injuries hit. This is what's happening now. I mean, let's be honest. Richard Sherman is on his last legs. He is definitely a stopgap.
Yep.
He's playing major minutes. He gets an interception last week.
Yes.
And again, You look at what the Buccaneers have to do. They've got to score 30 points because their defense may give up 27, 28. And not because they're not good. They're just not healthy. There's people in the game that I'm going, who are these guys?
Right.
And again, it's nothing other than the average everyday injuries that you just keep seeing game after game after game. And again, Peter, 17 games, that's going to increase your injuries probably 2 or 3 more per game just because of how you're getting beaten up over that time period.
Yeah, and of course the Bucs face their hated rival Saints, and the Saints have had their number during the regular season. Of course, the Bucs defeat them in the playoffs last year, the divisional playoff. Why is that? Why have the Saints been Tom Brady's kryptonite?
Hey, Peter, let's go somewhere else with that. The year the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl the first time, guess who beat them twice?
The Saints. Yes.
New Orleans. Yeah, it's one. The Superdome's a tough place to play.
Right.
2, up until this year, Drew Brees was pretty damn good quarterback.
Sure.
And again, this was a team that plays well together. They also have a great advantage playing at home with the noise. Peter, I was down in the Superdome, and it was 110 to 120 decibels every time the Buccaneers came to the ball.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's not going to be the case Sunday night. But I'll tell you what, I don't think this is an 11-point game. I mean, I saw that line. I said, my God, wait a second. The Saints are getting 11?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Not betting that, huh? Not betting that, not taking that bet at all.
Oh, I'm taking the 11 and running. Absolutely. I mean, come on. This again, Sean Payton knows how to beat the Buccaneers.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how to do it. And again, he's got Jameis Winston down there with him who can tell, okay, this is how this guy plays, this is how this guy plays, this is how this guy plays. So,
Sure.
Yeah, it's it's an interesting scenario the way it plays out. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then the way it's playing out right now, you have Leonard Fournette, who, of course, is out of LSU, has really solidified himself as the number 1 back versus a number 1 rushing defense. It's not the Bucs, it's actually the Saints. So is this the matchup to watch? Do you feel like the Bucs are going to come out and try to establish that running game? Or once again, is it on Brady's shoulders where they come out, throw the ball? I mean, do they come out like they did against the Falcons and throw the ball 13 straight times? Or do you see more of a balance? And if you're coaching this team, do you want to be balanced versus the Saints and Dennis Allen?
Peter, that's the $64 question. You're exactly right. I think you got to try to score. You're not going to beat the Saints. You got to outscore the Saints.
Right.
Because they're going to find a way to put points on the board. So you got to go out there and not necessarily throw caution to the wind, but think about it. Last week, Brady threw it 44 times, and they were up 24-3.
Yeah.
So,
right.
It's just part of the offense. And again, Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich, give him the ability to get up to the line, and all of a sudden, if it is what it's like, it becomes a metamorphosis. I thought you.
Well, look at that little SAT word there, action from Mr. Leo Haggerty, former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions. It's Sports Mag here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Great question from Almon Davis tonight. Do you feel like the Bucs get a little bit greedy, if you will, where it's 3rd and 2 and they try to throw the ball? What I told him is, look, you look conservative if you run the ball and you get stuffed, but if you pass the ball and you don't get it, you look like an idiot. Where do you stand on the play calling when it comes to 3rd down, especially 3rd and short?
The problem you have, Peter, is your quarterback is not part of the offense when you're looking at 3rd down, if you're talking a run.
Okay.
Again, that's Bruce Arians doesn't want that.
He said that this week when Brady was running and sliding. He basically said in so many words he needs to stop that S, and he didn't say S.
Yeah, exactly. And again, he put it very succinctly. You're 44 years old, pal.
Mm-hmm.
You don't recover as fast as you do elsewhere. So let's get for real here. Let's forget that crap, so to speak. And again,
right.
I'm going to ask Brady either this week or next week. You've been playing this game over 20 years. Is this the best group of talent you've ever played with? Because again, he didn't. You took away those Randy Moss years up there.
Sure.
That was not, Hall of Fame caliber talent. But I'll tell you what, you got a bunch of that hanging around in Tampa Bay right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
You really do. And Brady, leads the league in touchdown passes. Of course, now all-time completions in his career and 700 touchdowns to Brashard Perryman. Is this guy the MVP in your opinion? Is it over with at this point? I mean, who is closest? Is it Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, or is it Tom Brady by a landslide?
Oh, God, no. Peter, it's Aaron Rodgers by a landslide.
Wow.
And Peter, again, you got to look at it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I heard someone come out on the radio today and actually say that Aaron Rodgers will not make the MVP no matter what, because the media will not vote for him because of the COVID issue, which I think is totally wrong.
Right.
You want the best player. And if Tom Brady doesn't play for the Buccaneers, God forbid he gets hurt, they still win 8, 9, maybe 10 games. That team's that good.
Mm.
If Green Bay loses Aaron Rodgers, all of a sudden that becomes a 5-6 win team. That's how I'm judging.
Easy. I mean, did you see how Jordan Love played against Kansas City? And he's the supposed, future.
The heir apparent.
Right. The heir apparent franchise quarterback. Now, talking about the NFL, what do you make of this outbreak of COVID? Now, 75 positive tests. I mean, should the NFL have done more with, testing guys that are vaccinated? They test unvaccinated players every day. They don't do that for vaccinated players. And then on top of it, do you like the stance by the NFL that the show must go on, that you're not going to have any cancellations to games that are on Saturday?
You know what, Peter? Your listeners may not appreciate this, but we've got to start looking at this from a player's standpoint. And again, I wrote a column last week, basically said, look, if I'm looking at this as an NFL player, I've been told since I've come into the National Football League what I can put into my body and what I can't put into my body. Now I'm being mandated by the league that I have to take a vaccine that the testing on it is minimal at best. Okay. And players are just going around and they're asking these 3 questions. Has an NFL player died from COVID? No. Has an NFL player died? Has he gotten deathly ill from COVID? No. And then the third thing they're asking is, has an NFL player gotten symptoms that were worse than the flu? No. They're asking these guys to take the shot to protect somebody else.
Right.
And I see why they're having a pushback.
Sure.
And the bottom line is, Peter, with this, what the NFL needs to do is they need to get on board with the NFLPA. And there's your problem. The NFLPA has been silent on this. And I don't know if they're being silent because they don't agree with the league or whatever, but I think the NFLPA needs to come out with a statement. And that statement maybe not in cohort with the NFL itself. So this is what's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Do you think Bruce Arians was on to something when he was talking about the NFL should investigate more about fake vaccination cards? And this is why there are so many positive tests now, because maybe some of those cards could have been presented to those teams and they're actually not vaccinated? Or am I making too much of this?
Peter, anybody that thinks that Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards are the only two with a fake vaccination card. Probably still believes in Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny.
Yes.
Let's,
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Right.
I mean, if they thought about it, don't you think other teams have thought about it?
Sure.
And Peter, let's talk about this. Right?
Sure. Let's do it.
The wide receiver from the Buffalo Bills,
Cole Beasley. Yeah.
has had COVID twice. Looked pretty good Sunday, didn't he?
Sure did.
Peter, I hate to say this, but we got to move on.
Yeah.
We got to move on to the next stage. And you're asking guys to miss 5, maybe 10 days. There's 7 teams practicing virtually because people have the flu.
Right.
In their mind.
Right.
In their mind. You're forcing us to be at a distinct disadvantage because guys got the flu. So it's, and again, people may not appreciate what I'm saying, but you've got to look at it. Now, Peter, being 68 years old,
Sure.
COVID is a whole different animal to me than it is to Antoine Winfield at 23.
Absolutely.
So,
of course it is.
It's about time somebody actually looked at that.
Yeah, and I agree. And it's not only controlled the NFL, but also the NBA. It's postponed games for the Chicago Bulls, the NHL, and you hope there's not a league-wide shutdown for sports because we love to talk about sports here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. We're on with Leo Haggerty, former coach, scout, and now media member of Night Sports Productions. It's Sports Mag. With that being said, do you feel like the Bucs are going to move on? Because BA was on the Dan Patrick Show on Tuesday, and once again, he says it's still up in the air. Does that sound like a BA decision, a Jason Licht decision, or a Glazer decision? And with the bad PR right now with the COVID outbreak, do you think the Bucs would be forced to make that decision to move on from Brown?
No, they won't be forced. But again, I truly believe it's going to be the owner, because when you get down to it, the Buccaneers made a strong case for being 100% vaccinated.
Right.
The fact, and here's what bothers me the most is, and again, you got to take a player at his word, but when all of a sudden a guy shows up with a Citrus County vaccination card.
Correct. It's a dead giveaway.
And, well, it's got about 14 red flags up. That's for sure. So it just makes no sense why that was happening. That should have been the first thing. But again, if I was the guy checking it, I wouldn't want to bring it up because, well, I'll tell you what, if I was wrong, tell me how much of a problem that could be.
Oh, it's a big time problem. And of course, you know, the Bucs strive themselves on being 100% vaccinated, and it feels like they have egg in their face, along with Tom Brady basically sticking his neck out on the line for this player. And he's been in the corner. You're around that organization. Do you feel like the organization or Brady himself has tired of this song and act by Brown? Do you get the sense that they may be moving on from Brown on Monday if that decision comes down?
I seriously doubt it.
Okay.
Seriously doubt it. If you move on from him, he's going somewhere else.
He's going to Green Bay or Kansas City or LA or Arizona.
You want him to go to Green Bay?
No, of course not. That solidifies their offense. It makes that offense that much more dangerous. And I get it. Everybody wants to have this, you know, this moral upbringing or moral, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? You know,
want to be Father Flanagan.
Right.
You want to be the guy that's taking the moral high road.
Correct. You want to take the moral high road here, but you have to understand that Brown had these red flags when he came into the league. The last couple of years, he had the red flags. The Bucs took the opportunity. They took the chance on him. He was a big part of their offense last year and a big reason why they won the Super Bowl. And he's a big reason why they have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl this year. If he goes to the Green Bay Packers or the Kansas City Chiefs or the LA Rams or the Arizona Cardinals, that makes them a Super Bowl favorite. And you can't convince me that Brashard Perryman, I love the fact that he caught a touchdown, but he's one target. You can't convince me that Perryman, Miller, or Tyler Johnson is going to be able to give you that type of production that Brown gives you, because if you could, then he wouldn't be here. He would be gone already.
You know what, Peter? And again, I can go back like 50 years when Nebraska used to sign guys just so they wouldn't go somewhere else.
Right.
This is what it's going to be. You keep Antonio Brown in the loop just because he can't go anywhere else. And again, if they cut him loose, he's going to end up in one of 5 places, and you just hit the nail on the head, and I was right behind you with that. He's going to a contender.
Yep.
Because he changes the dynamic.
He changes the dynamic of your team. I mean, I get it, the locker room. He's been a model citizen besides this, but you're exactly right. He changes the dynamic of this offense. In fact, if he's added to this offense, and I think he's going to be eventually, it makes it that much more explosive. And I can't see this team winning a Super Bowl without Antonio Brown this year. Now, Urban Meyer's situation that's come out. What do you make of it? I mean, this is a complete disaster. I asked our friend Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News, why hasn't Shad Khan, who reminds me of a villain from a James Bond film, fired this guy already? Honestly, I mean, between, having a woman dance with him at an Ohio bar when he loses to the Cincinnati Bengals, albeit the best effort the Jaguars gave, he decided to stay behind. From yelling at Marvin Jones, from not starting James Robinson, to the failed development of Trevor Lawrence. And now comes word from our own Rick Stroud, not our own, but Rick Stroud from Tampa Bay Times. Josh Lambo got kicked and told basically, hey, Dip, you need to make your kicks. Coaches can't be kicking players, right? I mean, come on.
That stuff went out 40 years ago.
Right. Right. I mean, this is amateur hour. This is a college coach, and this is a reason why you don't hire a college coach in the first place. Urban Meyer has no business as a coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So why does he still have a job at this point?
Probably because if they fire him, they're going to have to pay him.
Right.
They're trying to get to a point. Now, I'll tell you what, if this is like the Raiders when they got rid of Lane Kiffin and said we're firing for cause.
Right.
If they can sell this for cause, now you don't have to pay the guy.
Right.
And you got to admit that you made a mistake.
You
That's
did.
The worst part.
It's a terrible mistake, and it doesn't equate to wins. I mean, there's nothing he's bringing to the table. He's calling his assistants losers. Hello? You hired these guys. You're calling them losers? What are you talking about? You're the biggest loser. Goodbye.
And you completely demoralized the number 1 pick in the draft. He is playing so badly right now because they're not even taking shots down the field.
No.
It's like, okay, throw it 3 yards, throw it 4 yards. That's not his game.
No.
The guy throws it down the field, and they gotta turn the guy loose.
Right. I don't know who's worse for a quarterback's development. Matt Nagy for Justin Fields in Chicago, or Urban Meyer. I think it's a tie at this point of who would suck.
It's Urban Meyer. It's Urban Meyer, head and shoulders.
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just like he had the guy coming out of college who was probably the best prepared player to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
The best prepared, and he looks like it just looks embarrassing right now, and that's sad to say.
It is. It's embarrassing to say. With that being said, what did you think of the top story today? Deion Sanders gets the number 1 high school recruit to say, you know what? I don't want to go to my dream school in Florida State. I want to go to Jackson State, and now there's talk of NIL money from Barstool Sports. What do you make of this fiasco, if it is a fiasco?
Well, I don't think it's a fiasco. I think that's what you're stuck with right now with the college basketball, because the NCAA turned a blind eye to it.
Mm-hmm.
They had no idea of how to prepare for it. They thought it would go away, and guess what? It didn't go anywhere.
No. And
they are just sitting there, and that's what's going to happen. You're going to start to see people who you go, wait a second, why's that kid going there? Well, he's going to make some money.
Right.
And Peter, let's get down to the money making right now. If college football decides to go to 8 teams in a playoff, you better play players. If you don't, you are just asking for a strike, whatever. A guy's just not coming out.
Yeah,
Just saying,
you already have players that are sitting out meaningless bowl games. It's disappointing, but we're going to be talking about the Outback Bowl with Penn State and Arkansas, and you have their big time wide receiver sitting out because he wants to get ready for the NFL draft. There has to be some type of incentive when you're playing in bowl games and you're extending season. There has to be administrators, presidents, chancellors, coaches. They can't keep on making all the money and not giving these kids any money. That's the reason why you have the NIL agreement. We're on with Leo Haggerty here talking college football. So Deion Sanders, do you feel like this is going to last for a couple years, or is it going to be he has success at Jackson State and then eventually moves on to a Power 5 school?
He's going to move on somewhere.
Right.
Because, Peter, as they said in the movie Deep Throat, follow the money.
Follow the money. Did Florida State mess up by not hiring him?
Wow. You're going to have to figure out. It's become like AAU basketball.
Yeah.
The coach brings a player with him. You better hire him on as a coach, and that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, Mike Norvell right now, 8-13, just received an extension, and he just missed out on the number 1 recruit. He also missed out on some other recruits. We'll see how because that's important. I mean, how important is it for a coach to recruit in college football these days?
Oh God, that's all it is.
Okay.
It's all about recruiting. I mean, look at why USC brought in the coach, Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma. Guess where the quarterback from Alabama is from? California.
Yeah.
Guess where the quarterback from Oklahoma is from? California.
Yeah.
They've got guys that are coming out of Orange County. And back there when Pete Carroll was there and Ed Ogeron is a great recruiter. They put a wall up around Orange County. They used to see coaches in the airport say, "What are you doing here? You ain't getting any of our kids. Go home." And that's about what it came down to. So now these kids were getting away, and there's only one other place that's a better recruiting area, and that's Dade County with Miami.
Oh yeah.
I asked when the former Miami coach was down there that if the NCAA made a rule that you could only recruit 150 miles from campus, would you be happy with that? Yeah. The only problem is I could only sign 30 of those guys, and then the other guys are going somewhere else.
Right.
But there's like 200 3, 4, and 5-star athletes just in Miami, Broward, and Dade.
Do you like that hiring Mario Cristobal down in Miami?
Yes, but I don't like the way it transpired.
Okay.
I mean, you hung the guy out to dry. I mean, he's still the coach, and you're already recruiting his replacement. You haven't even cut him loose.
Right.
Miami's an interesting dynamic down there.
They really are.
Yeah. If you go back to how Diaz got the job, I mean, it basically told the head coach, "You're going to fire your kid." He said, "No, I'm not." "Okay, you're going to fire me," and they did. Okay,
right,
fine.
right.
And Mark Richt had a resume as long as you can get for positives. Crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Leo
Peter,
Haggerty. Yes, sir.
Real quick before we go. I don't know if you saw the question I asked John Cooper last night after the game. The save Vasilevsky made
on Kopitar. Was that in overtime?
In overtime.
That was amazing.
That may have been one of the 5 best saves I've ever seen.
Amazing.
When I asked, you got to hear the comment. I asked Coop. I said, "Coach," describe the degree of difficulty it is to go from closing the 5-hole to getting enough push off your right leg to do the splits to get the left leg to the post. He goes, "Every male that watched that save cringed." What does that tell you?
Humans aren't supposed to do that. Like my friend Paul Stewart of the Buck Power Podcasting Network would say, what do you make of this Lightning team? I mean, they went in overtime, an exciting game, although this to me was a goalie battle. I mean, you had Vasilevsky, Jonathan Quick. He's been playing out of his mind, only giving up 2 goals a game. Once again, Taylor Radish, the kid line coming through. I mean, what do you make of this Tampa Bay Lightning team? Once again, with all the injuries, Joseph scores in overtime, but no Kucherov, no point. This team may get them back in about a month. I mean, how dangerous are they?
Peter, they're really, really good.
Yeah.
And again, they got the best goalie in the league.
Yes.
And he covers up a lot of sins.
Right.
So they don't have to worry about that. He definitely makes things happen back there. But God, when they get Kucherov and Point back, holy Lord, look how good they're going to be.
Yeah.
And again, you got Killorn playing at a different level. Excuse me. You've got all of a sudden the young kids are starting to play.
Sure.
And you knew Corey Perry was going to start scoring. It was just a matter of when.
Right. So,
and the shot Victor Hedman had last night, it was almost clocked at 100 miles an hour. If I'm the goalie, I'm happy it went in because that would have hit me and probably killed me.
Yeah.
So he just, right now, they have a team that is truly a team. Now, they're at 40 points right now, especially when they didn't start out real well.
Correct.
But now they're starting to get it. And, you had to blend some new guys in. You have Kachuk, you have Belmar, you got Joseph and Colton just, 2 years in. So, yeah.
Kid line is tremendous. Absolutely tremendous.
Exactly.
What do you see out of Stamkos? We'll wrap it up here. I mean, does it look like he's 100% healthy? I mean, he has really taken on. It seems like he's taken this team on. Not only Corey Perry, as Shooter and Stash would call the fine wine line, but Steven Stamkos. What do you see out of Stammer this year? It seems like he's 100% healthy, and he's also taken this team on his back as a true captain should.
Oh yeah, he is definitely. He realizes that with Kucherov out and now Point out, he's got to be the leader. He's got to be the guy that not only leads in the locker room, but the guy that leads on the ice.
Yeah,
he's got to be able to make it happen, and that's huge, because normally the problem you have is Stamkos is pretty well banged up, but he's not too banged up this year, and we're seeing the kind of production he can have when he's reasonably healthy. And again, that's just the way it is. You got to use the word reasonably healthy. And Peter, I don't know if you saw today, but the USFL signed an agreement with NBC. So NBC and Fox are going to carry all the games, and the old Tampa Bay Bandits are
Tampa Bay Bandits, Bandit Ball, of course, made famous for you kids out there by Burt Reynolds. And John Reeves was the quarterback at the time, and they had more success than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In fact, they drew more than the Bucs, right?
Yes, and that's the problem. Was Steve Spurrier was the coach, and that's why Spurrier never got a shot at coaching the Buccaneers, because they weren't going to let somebody who showed them up become their head coach. So yeah.
Well, and one of the mistakes that organization made, and of course Spurrier, I believe it was 96, left them at the altar. He was about to leave Florida, and he decided to stay, of course, after losing to Nebraska and the Fiesta Bowl. Remember it like it was yesterday. Good stuff, Leo Haggerty. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television.
Go to www. And by the way, Peter, you don't have to do that anymore. You just go to itsportsmag.com, and I'm going to start my Christmas articles tonight.
Okay.
I'm going to do Christmas past and Christmas present and Christmas future, but I'm going to talk about things that people now never will see again. And you know what one of them is, Peter, in the NFL?
What's that?
A 9-yard field goal. Back when the goalpost on the goal line.
Yep.
And it truly was a post pattern.
Yes, absolutely, my friend. Good stuff. Leo Haggerty, former Coach Scout and now media member of Night Sports Productions. We'll get together soon, my friend. Outback Bowl is coming up, Gasparilla Bowl. So definitely get ready, man. I need to put on some of those LBs that we always enjoy putting some food away, right?
Absolutely. Remember now, the cutoff date is the 19th for the Outback Bowl. Don't forget to get your stuff in. I'll remind you.
I will not forget. Thank you very much, Leo Haggerty, for joining me here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, boss?
All right, take care. The hardest working man in Sports Talk Radio, Sports Talk TV, Peter Blake.
Love
Enjoyed
it. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. There you go, Mr. Leo Haggerty. Your check is in the mail, whatever that means. So we'll go out to these comments, and then we'll wrap it up for the night if we got no phone calls. I'm not going to sit here. I love sitting here and talking sports with you. I mean, we talked Bucs tonight. We talked NFL. We talked COVID outbreak. We talked about college football and the Deion Sanders situation and Florida State losing their number one recruit. We talked about your Tampa Bay Lightning. What do you want to talk about? 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. Rob Thompson says live on the crew tonight. Appreciate you. Gabriel Beck says Peter Blake. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. Mr. Beck says, yes, I'm worried because they lost me money, but they need to win, man, and make me more money back. I agree with that.
Here comes the money.
They need to do that. Let's go out to Caleb here. Go Bucks. This is my new sound.
How about them Bucks, baby?
Yeah, how about those Bucks, Byron? Let's go out to no huddles on 3rd and short. Mess with the defense. Certainly possible, I guess. Certainly possible. I think anything is possible with this offense as soon as they get Antonio Brown back. But you got to take care of business first. And that snake is still in the grass. Make no mistake about it. You cut that head off of that snake, and that snake is Sean Payton and the New Orleans Saints. Don't come out flat on Sunday night. I don't think the Bucs are going to come out and have a 38-3 goose egg on national television. We'll get you covered here live on NSPN. I Love St. Pete from Ducky Sports Lounge, 1719 West Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa for your pre-half. And who knows, maybe a post-game edition. I go on vacation next week, so maybe I'll stay up late with you if you're good to me. If not, then you get this.
Shut up!
Then you get this. Then you get this. I got all these sound effects. So don't play. Hey, Leo, there could be kids watching the Sports Web. Well, hopefully there is, Christopher. You're watching. You're a smart guy. We need to corrupt the kids out there to be Bucs fans and be Tampa Bay sports fans and like sports in general. I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap it up here. Thanks to the great Denis Phillips of ABC Action News, meteorologist, but sports broadcaster on this show. Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Network. And, of course, the great and the legend himself, Mr. Leo Haggerty. Once again, we'll be back on Sunday about 6:30, getting you ready for Bucs versus the Saints on this Victory Wednesday. Do 3 things for me. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. 3, 2, 1.
Stan Arthur here for the I Love St. Pete Facebook group. If you're a business owner looking to connect with tens of thousands of potential new local customers, you owe it to yourself to get enrolled in our Key Tag Rewards program. Since 2019, we've signed up more than 200 local merchants. Sponsor opportunities are available too, such as our group banner ad and even your own custom key tags. Just go to stpetekeytag.com, get enrolled, and get ready to get busy. St. Pete Key